Welcome, Satish. Satish is from SATS Advisors, and thank you, Satish, for taking time to meet with me. And
Thanks, Rajni.
so, one of the main things, Satish, we want to talk about is just give a little bit of introduction about your business, and then we'll talk about your background and how you got started, and any we can talk about any of your background story. So, what I understand, SATS Advisors doing well as a consulting company, doing a lot of business consulting and also investment consulting, and you work with a lot of startups. And I know individually you and your business partner also do some investments. So it's a very unique combination where you're doing consulting and investment. So, and also in a fast growing ecosystem in India, especially in South India, where I think is in very nascent phase. So it's a exploding market, and I know you're part of it. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. Satish, give us a little bit background on about SATS as well as you and how you got to where you are, and anything that can help us understand the context of what your background would be great.
Sure, definitely. I'll start with my background first. So basically, I'm Satish Rajendran, and I grew up in Chennai, and I finished my engineering as most of the people of my generation do. And so after finishing my graduation, me and my friend were working on an idea, but we couldn't get it through because we didn't have any kind of help, and we didn't know where to start, how to go about it, nothing. So it was stuck with me for a long time, and eventually I got job into one of the top four MNCs. I went into the IT job as most of the engineers do here, and once I got there, I learned a lot. Before I joined there, I didn't know anything about coding and everything like that. But once I got in there, I learned everything, and I liked what I did there. And eventually, I knew that my passion is entrepreneurship, because what I left before I joined the job had had been in my back of the mind for a long time. So so once I knew that I was going to quit at some point of time, I started. I got an opportunity to invest, and probably around 2011, I think I did my first investment, and it just happened randomly. I just knew that one of my friends is starting in business. So one fine day, I just called him up and said that I have some money I want to invest. Are you okay with it? And eventually that happened. Initially it didn't happen, but eventually it happened. And then 5 years after that, I quit my job. So so for me, uh, before becoming an entrepreneur, I became an investor. So that's kind of a transition that I had. Eventually, even though I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So, and even after quitting my job in Cognizant, I I kind of worked with a lot of startups because I knew startups was the trend, and I wanted to do startup of my own as well.
Got
So
it.
so I wanted to work with a lot of startups. So I joined a small services company, kind of became a co-founder there, and then we worked with a lot of startups, built products for them, and then saw how they plan their growth and how their product evolved and everything like that. And then so that was for a couple of years, and then eventually I came out, and then I started my own company called SATS Advisors. So with SATS Advisors, what we do currently is business consulting and investment consulting. We do for broad range of companies, from startups to medium scale businesses to large scale business as well. So since we work with a lot of startups, and one of my investments is in a company called Startups Club, which works with a lot of startups. So I get a lot of founders that I interact with in the startup ecosystem, and we try to help them out as much as possible in terms of connecting with the investors, or investing our own, or giving them just strategy advice or any discussion that we could have with them. So in that way, we work with a lot of startups, and so that is from the business consulting perspective. From the investment perspective, also we work with a lot of investors and banks and NBFCs and other financial systems. So in that way, also we try to bring capital into the companies as well. So not especially for startup, but medium scale as well. So that is what SATS Advisors does right now. And individually, I also invested in about 5 companies till now, and a couple of them are in the food tech space, and one of them is in the education, and another is into the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think almost every one of us has a very similar background. We all did engineering. I did. I did chemical engineering. Don't ask me why. I think it's because my dad wanted me to do it. And then from there, you naturally, as an analytical person, software was an easy transition. So I started my master's in
Yeah,
MIS, then did software. Then a few years later, you're like, okay, I did chemical engineering. I'm not doing anything to do with it. Then software, and then my MBA is really where I figured out that I really have a sense for business. The interesting part, my dad was a serial entrepreneur, not a successful serial entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. What he did was he did great at products. He would take the most expensive material to make, whether it's potato chips or even, I think it's phenol that we use for cleaning the bathrooms. But he
hmm,
made it so expensive. He didn't do any market research. He didn't understand what competitive analysis was. He just assumed if you make the best product, people will pay for it. What it ended up being is his bag of chips that were like Ziploc selling right next to Lay's. His cost was more than what they were selling for Lay's. So he never made it. But in his head, he was like, oh man, I use the best oil. I'll never recycle the oil. This is a health case. But it didn't matter, right? At the end of the day, he was so far off on marketing and sales. Then he did a couple of good businesses, but 90% of his business failed. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs in India are in the same scale, including me, right? When I started out, one thing I want to do is help entrepreneurs not make the same mistakes my dad made, because I know we have so many people have so
absolutely.
many ideas, but if they don't have a way or a framework to execute, then they're going to run into the same thing. They're going to start one after the other and eventually just give up, right? And then they never achieve the dream. So that was my
Yeah,
intent. Is I feel like, just if you take overall India, the ecosystem has grown a little better now. But if you look at the US market, it's very mature. There's a lot of frameworks, a lot of mentors, a lot of courses, easy access to all this information. But I want to take all the information and talk to people like you who are like pillars in the ecosystem in India and be able to spread this message. Right now, I know a lot of people don't know about you. The more I know, you are very big about helping entrepreneurs in India. So just knowing what you do, just knowing, because a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to, every time I come to India, the first question they or say like, hey, can you give me money? I have an idea. I want to start a business, right? So I think that is a very, it's a
yeah,
little different than what I'm saying is they assume, I think, I don't know, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. In my head, in their mind, they're saying a successful entrepreneur gets investment, right? Which investment translates to success. I can tell you, I can give you $1 million. If you don't know how to execute an idea, it doesn't matter. You are not going to be
exactly.
successful. And I think that's the knowledge transition they have to come to. But I want to ask you, so when you were helping these entrepreneurs, I know maybe you're helping people who are already in business. Maybe they don't ask a question. I'm pretty sure you deal with a lot of people who are just starting out, just have an idea. What do you think is like their biggest question or the number one issue, or at least a perceived issue that they have?
A lot of people that I see in startup ecosystem feel that they need to have the complete product to start selling.
Got it.
So
Okay.
a lot of techies and then even non-tech founders that you see, they think that they need to have the complete product to start
Okay.
selling. Uh, that is one of the myths that I've seen, because they don't come from the sales background or they don't know about the. They might be domain experts in their domain, but when it comes to business, you need to be able to sell.
Correct.
As you rightly pointed out, that is the biggest thing. So you might give the best product and best features and everything. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, how consumer reacts to your product is what matters. So I think that is something that I see in a lot of founders. They need to be able to start selling before even the product is ready, or at least halfway through the product cycle. At least they should be able to start selling and figure out what the market wants and if they're building right features or right kind of product for the market. So that is something I see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I also see is that a lot of people start looking for investment or investors at an idea stage. You see, I mean, I get a lot of LinkedIn messages just saying that, okay, fine, I have this great idea. They'll send you fancy PPTs and everything like that and say that, okay, I want to get started. I want an investment. It doesn't work that way, because investors don't invest in ideas.
Agree.
They invest in entrepreneurs. So that is something that a lot of people don't understand. And for any investors to work with an entrepreneur or invest in a business, they need to have they have to understand the entrepreneur. So that takes time. It's not something that will happen immediately. So even if you're looking for an investment at an idea stage, you need to have a reputation or trust with your investors. So that is why always the seed round comes from friends and family, because they trust you. So they may not trust your idea or your business, but they trust you. So eventually the money flows through only for the person. So you should be
Exactly.
trustable for any investor that you're looking out for. So that is something that probably entrepreneurs need to learn a little bit, and especially fresh out of college, fresh out of school kids try to do this. But I think it's just a learning cycle. So people will eventually learn about this.
Agree. And I think that's really what that's great feedback, right? At the end of the day, what if I knew what I knew 20 years ago, right now I'm in my 40s, if I knew what I knew to 20, I think it will be a completely different trajectory. Even you, Satish, if you were
Yeah,
knew what you knew and you could, so that's really what the intent of what we're doing right now, right? We want to give this knowledge. And again, not everybody's going to get it, because a 20-year-old me would not be willing to listen to a lot of people, right? But maybe a 24
absolutely.
year old, 24-year, if I started something at 20, I think by 24, I've realized, damn it, I need help, right? So, or at least I need some guidance so that I can fast forward. I think when you start out, almost every entrepreneur I've met start out, they just like when you're young, you're invincible. Your idea is going to make millions overnight. You don't need anybody's help. You got this. All you need might be some cash infusion, and you got this, right? As to your product, I think those are the frameworks I think is missing. Like, hey, there's a concept called minimum viable product. There is, because what it does is, without validation from your customers, if you develop for a year, it might not solve a pain that the customer has. Might not fill a gap, or it might be a product or a solution looking for a problem when they should be looking at the problem they should solve. I think there's a lot of I would say basic frameworks that I think I'm not going to make a broad assumption, but a lot of people in the Indian market are not fully aware of, right? And just simple things like you said is, I think the more businesses I started, the more I understood that idea is cheap, right? It is all about execution. And that's really
Exactly.
where the investors will come in. Let's say the same concept, right? What you talked about. If somebody has an idea and now they've spent some time doing market research or sort of validating and have a minimum viable product, and they come to you and they tell you, Satish, by the way, I had this idea, and then I did a minimum viable, I did a market focus group, and I've actually sold 10 products and I've got some feedback, and now this is the
Absolutely.
second phase I'm going to be doing. Now you're interested talking to them because they've done some work and they've tweaked their product or the service. Now at least there's a chance for it to be successful, right? Instead of just an idea state. So I think that's great feedback. So if you had to turn around and say, you've helped a lot of entrepreneurs, you've invested in it, and you are an entrepreneur yourself. So what would you classify as the most like the one category or the one characteristic you see in successful entrepreneurs? I know we talked about people who are your number one issues, but if there's one thing positive you see in the ecosystem or in the business you've invested in, what is, if there's one character that or two that you can pull out to say these are things that could help you be successful, what would it be?
Probably I'll say two things.
Mm-hmm.
One is perseverance
Okay.
and learning.
Okay.
So these two things are absolutely necessary for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so both have plus and minus actually.
Okay.
If you see perseverance, I mean, never never say die. Attitude is something that is needed for entrepreneurs. So whatever issues come, whatever might be the task ahead of them, they need to be able to take it on and then move forward. So at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, every day you move forward, that's success for you. And that is something that I've seen a lot of successful entrepreneurs. Uh, but sometimes it can also lead to issues in the sense like you have to know when to stop.
Okay.
You have to know when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So little bit careful about that, but I think perseverance is something that is really needed in entrepreneurs because the more and more obstacles you face, the more and more learning you get. So
Absolutely.
every failure is a learning. So I always say that there are no failure as an entrepreneur. There's only failed ideas, not failed entrepreneurs.
I
So
agree.
your ideas might fail, but eventually you learn and move on, and then you do greater things. So that is something that is very necessary to be said.
I agree absolutely. Again, it's a universal rule for entrepreneurs, right? A lot of people see these successful entrepreneurs, even here, the ClickFunnels community, and just they're like, oh man, they just did this one thing, and then now they're overnight millionaires. But if you go into their stories, I know I have a couple of mentors, and one of them has done 34 LLC registrations and 18 actual companies before he hit it. And then now he's a millionaire, but now nobody knew about all of his failures. They're like, oh man,
Absolutely.
within 1 year, now he's a millionaire. Now I can be a millionaire in 1 year. You have to put the repetitions in. You have to fail. I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody has to, but I'm talking about 95% of people go through this path. Every success, I mean, I think you learn a lot more from your failures. And to your point, that's why fail fast, do small, and a lot of them also look for too far ahead, right? Like your step one today, you haven't sold one product, then you're like, what happens when I sell a million products? I don't have the right suppliers to do it. I'm like, don't worry about that. Let's do it right now. Make sure we sell 100. I
Yeah.
think you have to fail, move forward, pivot, and those are the only ones who've been successful. Almost everybody I've talked to who've been mentors or successful, even in my friend circle, have been people who never made it in the first cut. Did they make money? Absolutely, but it wasn't life-changing money. But then what they learned is either one, they were not a good fit for the business, the business was not good for the market, and for them to identify this is a great fit for me and what I'm passionate about took 2 to 3 businesses minimum. There's some who are still on the seventh, eighth business. Are they making money? Yes, but they still wouldn't classify as successful. It's almost like a hobby business. They're making some money for livelihood. And I think entrepreneurs need to know is, to your point, as high as you can have in a entrepreneur day, you can have the same low the same day. You might be like, oh, I just signed this amazing $1 million deal. And then through
Yeah.
2 hours later, that deal will go through. So you have to be consistent, whether it's releasing like content like we are doing or talking to customers. You have to be consistent to have any chance of successful. It is a marathon at the end of the day, and nobody's done it overnight. I can guarantee you that. So and then again, you should
Yeah.
be
I
willing to
mean,
learn.
yeah. I mean, as you said, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, even when you start selling, right, they think that they need to have a sales guy, or they don't know about sales, and all of that comes in when you're fresh or when you're not in that domain. So, but this generation has got a lot more facilities than the previous generations had. Like, you just could put a social media post and then you can start selling. People will follow you, and you can start selling via WhatsApp. You don't have to have any face-to-face interaction at all. Like, I know a lot of women and college kids in India right now who are selling, or just making millions of dollars, or at least in millions of rupees, just for selling via WhatsApp. So this generation has got all those facilities. You don't have to be king of everything. So if you're able to just showcase your features or showcase your product, then you can start selling a lot more easily. You don't have to do a sales distribution team to be able to start selling. So that's a big advantage with this internet generation and this social media generation, actually. So
I
yeah,
completely agree. And I think to your point, most people, this is all they need. This is almost the only piece of technology they need to run a business. It's amazing, right? This
absolutely,
the speed,
absolutely,
I don't like right from Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, these interviews, everything can happen here. I know people who run most of the business from their phone, so technology's come a long way. But you're absolutely right. There's a big hurdle that they've crossed right now, right? Back in the day, we didn't have this fast internet. I still remember the little dial-up at 36K when I was in India, right, 20 years ago. So the world has definitely opened up. And to your point, if the founder can't sell the product, I'm going to doubt anybody else can, right? You are the one who's passionate about it. The first sale,
exactly.
the first feature, the first problem you're solving, it has to be you. Okay, I think sales also gets a bad rep that salespeople are like just sleazy and they're trying to give you something that you don't want. What you have to understand is you are solving a problem. And as long as you believe that in your heart, then the process becomes natural. Because if you understand the exact demographic, for example, if I'm selling a course for somebody who's just coming out of college and there's a starter course, you can't go sell that to a entrepreneur who's already owned 5 businesses. You have to find the right market and say, hey, by the way, guys, I know you're graduating from engineering like we did. You can go get a degree and make maybe, I don't know, right now the salaries were 1 lakh, 2 lakhs a month. And then in a couple of years, you will be sad that you did it, just because we all go through the process. Almost everybody I know went to IT field, and 10 years later, they're like, man, I make money, but I feel like I'm throwing my soul away for this. And this is not like, they're making money, right? But now at that point, because when you're younger, all you want is a car, a house, maybe a wife and kids. And then when you, after 10 years into this, you're making good money, you're like, man, I would spend 18 hours a day at work. And this is not what I'm passionate about. Yes, the paycheck is good, and then you start realizing that this is not what I was put on the earth for, and you then figure out what you want to do. We want, not saying people should not take the safer option, which is even as a South Indian mom, my mom, as a Tamil mom, she still has a problem with me talking about entrepreneurship, right? Because we're beating it on the head and said, go get the job, go get the degree, go get the job, and get 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Every 2 weeks, get a paycheck. What they miss out
yeah,
is when you're 40 years old and you turn around and you say, this is not what I wanted to do. And I think that's where I want the entrepreneurs who are coming out, to your point, have a lot more options, a lot more ways to be successful. And again, you could be having a job right now and work on your passion project, and you make enough money and then you quit, right? If you put your time into it, you can absolutely be successful in 6 months from now, a year from now. But it won't be overnight. But if you actually know a problem you're solving and you act on it, and like what Satish said, be persevere on solving a problem, you could absolutely be successful. All right.
yeah. I think just to add to the point that you said, every entrepreneur or entrepreneur basically,
Mm-hmm.
when they want to start out, I think family plays a very critical role in their journey. It is absolutely necessary for entrepreneurs to be able to talk to their families and say that, okay, this is a journey that I want to take, and this is going to be a lot of ups and downs, and they need to have the support of the family. Otherwise, it's
Absolutely.
going to be really, really tough journey. And that's why it's easier to start when you're just out of college or in your college. So you are single and you can still play with a lot of time and everything like that. But once you get a stage where you get married and then you have kids and then you have loans and all of that, it gets a lot more tougher. That's when it's even more tougher to start. You'll have a lot more maturity and all of that, but still you'll have a lot of dependencies and everything like that. So it's a lot more tougher to start at that point of time. But for entrepreneurs, if they want to jump out, I think it's very, very essential for them to be able to convince their family to be able to do their entrepreneurial journey peacefully.
No, absolutely right. So your risk profile changes when you're 40 or when you're in the 20s.
Exactly.
The only person you care about is you, right? As long as you can eat something, you're good. But once you have a wife and kids, you have to make sure they can be fed too, and then they have to go to school. So your risk profile now, you might not be able to do one. Or if one business fails, you might be like, okay, you're done. Go back to a job, right? So to your point, it is a process. You need some time to make it work. So the earlier start, even if you have to start part time, but approach it the right way. It is not an overnight thing. It is not just because you have an investment. It's not because you have an idea. It is more than that. You have to absolutely look at the market, look at the pain you're solving, and be able to persevere and get buckle in for the long ride. And also, this one thing I wish this is, again, I'm not preaching, this is what I could do. Be humble, right? Be humble and know that you don't know everything. A 20-year-old me knew everything, I can guarantee you. But now I can tell you, even now I'm learning every single day. Every single day. Doesn't matter how many degrees you have, every single day. MBAs help you with the theory. When you start a business, that's when you really learn the in and out of actually practice, right? MBA, okay, this is market segmentation, this is the customers, and oh yeah, in my head I'm like, okay, I find the customer, they're gonna all line up again outside the door to buy. I can guarantee you that doesn't happen. You still, because even in Facebook, right, like Satish is saying, there's so many ads is bombarding them. You have to resonate with your audience, and we can talk more about it, but you have to get that frame of mind saying a customer, a problem, and how do I resonate with them for you to be successful. So that's a topic for another day, but that's great feedback. So Satish, if you had to say, okay, from a word of advice, if you had to say, hey, there's one thing I want to tell my entrepreneurs, other than, I know we talked about perseverance and learning, but if there's one thing that kind of captures the essence of to be a successful entrepreneur, or from your own life, right? What would that be, so that we can leave that with our audience?
So I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand the support of the value. I mean, the value of the support system that is there around them. I think that is absolutely essential for any entrepreneur to be able to survive that journey. Whether it is in terms of family or friends or any other community or anything like that. I think that is something that is absolutely needed in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, and because all entrepreneurs go the phase of ups and downs. So,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to correct or pivot and change all of that, I think that support system is very, very necessary. It might be in terms of the financial support, or it might be in terms of the counseling support, or it might be in terms of the mentorship. So it could be a lot of anything, but you need to have the right set of people around you to be able to do the right things or move forward. So that I think is absolutely necessary for people, and that is something not valued that much actually, and people don't recognize that as well. So that is something very very needed in today's ecosystem, and especially in India, I think. Uh, Not just India, in any in the information age, right? You get a lot of information. You get bombarded with news everywhere. You see that there's a lot of communities, a lot of mentors, a lot of support system. You see that, but you need to be able to pick up the right one for you,
Absolutely.
because that is absolutely necessary. Because not every system will work for everybody. So
Agree.
you need to find your own right mentor. You need to find your own right community to work with. So because everybody's wavelength differs and everybody's domains differ and everything like that. So uh, that is something that is absolutely needed from an entrepreneurial journey perspective.
And I completely agree with you because I think me identifying a mentor has completely changed my mindset and my growth. So I think they say you're who the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you can
Absolutely.
pick teammates and mentors and be open to suggestions, right? You don't have to follow everything everybody says, but just be willing to listen to other perspectives, and it absolutely will change yours. And I think to be successful, especially the high times when you're doing well, great. But you really need a support system to kind of refocus you when things are not going well. Maybe because as entrepreneurs, we always looking for the next shiny object. And sometimes if you don't focus on that particular idea, the number one idea, your problem solving, you can always say, oh, by the way, if I do this adjacent thing, that's another $1 million or $1 million in my portfolio. And then you lose that because now you're working on 2 things, you have no focus. So to your point, those are the kind of things that my mentors have helped. And I think almost every entrepreneur struggles with this problem of focus. So the more you can, even if it's a weekly thing you can do, and that's one of the main things we bring into India is to be able to put some framework and hold people accountable and move them forward, talk about milestones, because you could be running for a year and still stay in the same place because you really didn't have milestones. To your point, you didn't realize you had to give up this angle and make a pivot to another angle, right? So if you don't do that,
Yeah.
you could be running in 2 years down the lane. You're like, man, I haven't made any progress, and I wasted 2 years from my life, and then I didn't get married, or my family hates me, whatever it is. It's good to have the support system to give you a perspective that you can't see when you're in the place. So,
Yeah.
all right. I really appreciate your time, Satish. So how can people follow you? What can they reach out to you for help? I know you're a very busy person, so tell them so that way we understand what you can help them with and how they can reach out to you. Again, one of the things I always tell my audience or my folks I'm mentoring is good questions get good answers. If you just say, come in and say, hey, I want to be rich, I'll say go work, right? But if you say, hey, I have a problem in this space and I've tried this, what is the next step? Then I'll give you a detailed answer, right? So I always tell people, like, if you just want to get quick rich scheme, you should go talk to somebody else who's going to take your money, right? But the point is, if you have a problem, a real business problem, then we are here to help. So that's how I approach it. So who can reach out to you and how can you help them?
So just adding to your point before closing. So I think what you said is absolutely right. I think people look for answers from others for the questions that they have, the troubles that they have. I think they need to understand that. I mean, yeah, I keep saying this often. Every entrepreneur is unique. Every idea is unique, and every opportunity is unique. So it's not necessary that something that has worked for others will work for you. So I
Mm-hmm.
cannot give you a solution for the problem that you are having today. So we can give you directions, or we can say that this is what has happened. This might be a good solution, but at the end of the day, the entrepreneur needs to figure out what is working. They need to decide on this. Their decisions to take how to take it forward. So the mentors, even though mentors are friends or guidance people, so whatever it is, at the end of the day, they can only give directions. But at the end of the day, decision has to be taken by the entrepreneur, and they have to take ownership for that. So a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs come to mentors and say that, okay, what can I do right now? How to solve this? So that is something that you can say that, okay, what do I do now? But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the mentors might give you 2 or 3 options. They said, okay, this might be a good option. This might be a good option. Try this out. Try this out. But it's absolutely up to you to take it forward and see which works and which does not work for you. So that is absolutely necessary. Um, thanks for your time. And anybody who wants to get in touch with me, you can follow SATS Advisors, SATZ Advisors in LinkedIn or Facebook. Satish Rajendran is there in that. You can follow us via SATS Advisors or Satish Rajendran, my own ID as well. And you can always you'll find my email ID in our website as well at satsadvisors.com. So you can write to us and I'll reply back to you.
Perfect. I will put it on the comments and on the screen right after this. So that's perfect.
Sure.
Again, I really appreciate your time, and I know a lot of people will find value in this. And hopefully, even if you can help one or two entrepreneurs by this conversation, that will be a great win for me. And I know you will like that too. So thank you again, Satish.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time. Okay. Talk
Absolutely.
to you soon.
Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.